Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. Be sure to check out Dragon Shield for all of the best accessories to protect your decks. TCG Player for cards at great prices while supporting local game stores. And Patreon, where you get awesome benefits for your direct support. On February 26th, we are hosting a CEDH tournament on our Discord. It will be 100% proxy friendly, first place gets $500, and 2 through 4 all get $250. All you have to do to participate in the tournament is sign up to our Patreon or sub to us on Twitch. Check us out on Twitch every Wednesday evening for great games of CEDH with special guests every week. If you sub to Twitch, you get additional perks such as access to our Discord. We will be going to SCGCon Indianapolis this coming March. We will be playing CEDH in the Command Zone and recording games while we are there. Stop by and say hello, and let's all jam some games together. Our Mox Pearl Patreon rewards are back. Every month, we get together with our patrons and record a game to be on the channel. That's what this game is tonight. So, let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Charles piloting 8.5 Tails. This deck resembles the classic Death and Taxes style by locking down the board state and slowly grinding out its opponents. Charles' opening hand contains a Recruiter of the Guard, Archon of Emeria, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, and 4 planes. Next, we have Mike piloting the 4-color pair of Thrasios Triton Hero and Bruse Taro Boorish Herder. This deck, called Wild Pile, is a mid-range and stacks list that grinds value, interacts, and eventually wins the game through combat. Mike's opening hand contains an Arcane Signet, Bloom Tender, Mother of Runes, Coma Cosmos Serpent, Polluted Delta, Marsh Flats, and a Flusterstorm. After that, we have Adam piloting Sythis Harvest's Hand. This deck leverages enchantments to slow down the board before closing out the game with attrition or combo. Adam's opening hand contains a Nature's Claim, Sylvan Library, Gaddock Teague, Sarah's Sanctum, Ancient Tomb, Arid Mesa, and a Verdant Catacombs. Finally, we have Chad piloting Syr Carah the Bold. This deck seeks to storm off with its commander and leverage that to burn out the table. Chad's opening hand contains a City of Traders, Jeweled Lotus, Roiling Vortex, Lion's Eye Diamond, Rain of Embers, Mountain, and a snow-covered mountain. Without further ado, let's kick off this bold, brazen, brash, beholden brotherhood. Charles wins the Golgappa eating contest and gets to start us off. Charles draws a card for turn and plays a Plains. He passes. Mike draws a card for turn and plays a Marsh Flats. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Savannah onto the battlefield. He casts Mother of Runes and gives the turn to Adam. Adam draws and plays a Verdant Catacombs. He cracks it, pays a life, and also fetches up a Savannah onto the battlefield. He casts a Mana Crypt. Adam ends his turn. Chad draws and starts off his turn by casting Jeweled Lotus. He plays a City of Traders. The table stares in disbelief as Chad cracks his Jeweled Lotus to help cast his commander, Syr Carah the Bold. The 5-mana commander resolves on turn 1, and Chad passes the turn. Charles draws and plays a Plains. He casts his commander, 8.5 Tails. Charles ends his turn. Mike draws and plays a Polluted Delta. He passes. During his upkeep, Adam loses his Mana Crypt trigger and takes 3 damage. He draws and plays an Arid Mesa. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Plains onto the battlefield. He casts his commander, Sythis Harvest's Hand. Adam gives the turn to Chad. At the end of Adam's turn, Mike cracks his Polluted Delta, pays a life, and fetches up a Volcanic Island onto the battlefield. He casts a Braid, targeting Syr Carah, killing it. Chad weeps softly and moves to his turn. Chad draws and floats mana from his City of Traders. He plays a Snow-Covered Mountain for turn, sacrificing City of Traders. He casts Roiling Vortex. Chad gives the turn to Charles. During his upkeep, Charles takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. He draws and plays a Plains. He moves to combat and attacks Adam with 8.5 Tails. Adam takes it, and in his second main phase, Charles casts Glow Rider. Charles passes. During his upkeep, Mike takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. He draws and plays a Tropical Island for turn. He casts a Fabro Elder. Mike ends his turn. During his upkeep, Adam takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. Also in his upkeep, he wins his Mana Crypt roll. He draws and casts Sylvan Library. Sythis triggers, Adam gains a life and draws a card. He plays a Sarah's Sanctum for turn. He casts Moonblessed Cleric. It enters, and Adam fetches up a Shielded by Faith onto the top of his library. Adam ships the turn to Chad. During his upkeep, Chad takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. He draws and plays a Mountain. He casts Sensei's Divining Top. Chad passes. During his upkeep, Charles takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. He draws and plays a Plains. He moves to combat and attacks Chad with Glow Rider and 8.5 Tails. Chad takes it, and in his second main phase, Charles casts Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. He casts a Remorseful Cleric and gives the turn to Mike. During his upkeep, Mike takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. He draws and plays a Flooded Strand. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Tundra onto the battlefield. He casts his commander, Thrasios Triton Hero. He casts an Arcane Signet. He casts a Bloom Tender. With his dump truck full of mana set up, Mike ends his turn. During his upkeep, Adam takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. Also in his upkeep, he wins his Mana Crypt roll. During his draw step, he draws 2 extra through Sylvan Library and pays 4 life to keep 1 extra. He taps his Sacrosanctum to help cast Blind Obedience. Sythis triggers, Adam gains a life and draws a card. He plays a Horizon Canopy for turn. He taps his Horizon Canopy to cast Gaddock Teague, extorting it through Blind Obedience. Teague resolves and Adam passes the turn. During his upkeep, Chad takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. He draws and then activates Sensei's Divining Top, looking at and rearranging the top 3. He activates Top, drawing a card and putting Top on top. He plays a Snow-Covered Mountain. He casts Chrome Mox, paying the extra 2 because of the stacks on the board, which feels extra bad. It resolves and he imprints Rain of Embers. Chad ends his turn. During his upkeep, Charles takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. He draws and plays a Plains. He moves to combat and attacks Adam with everything. Adam takes it, and in his second main phase, Charles casts Recruiter of the Guard. It enters, and he fetches up a Stoneforge Mystic into his hand. He casts Stoneforge Mystic. It enters, and Charles fetches up a Sword of Hearth and Home into his hand. Charles passes the turn. During his upkeep, Mike takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. He draws and moves to combat. He attacks Charles with Favorable Elder. Charles takes it, and in his second main phase, Mike casts Coma, Cosmos Serpent. The table wonders suddenly what in the world just happened, and Mike passes the turn. During his upkeep, Adam takes a damage from Roiling Vortex. Also in Adam's upkeep, Mike creates a 3/3 Serpent through Coma. Adam then loses his Mana Crypt roll and takes 3 damage. During his draw step, he draws 2 extra through Sylvan Library, paying 4 life to keep 1 extra. He plays an Ancient Tomb for turn. He taps his Ancient Tomb to help cast Elesh Norn, Grand Cenobite. Charles accuses Adam of plagiarism, and in response, Charles sacrifices his Remorseful Cleric, exiling Chad's graveyard. With Elesh Norn still in the stack, Mike taps his Mother of Runes to give Coma protection from white until end of turn. Then Elesh Norn resolves, wiping most of the table. Adam moves to combat and attacks Mike with everything. Mike takes it, and in his second main phase, Adam taps his Horizon Canopy to help cast Survival of the Fittest, extorting it through Blind Obedience. Sythis triggers, Adam gains a life and draws a card. Survival resolves, and Adam ends his turn. During his upkeep, Chad takes a damage from Roiling Vortex, and Mike creates a Serpent through Coma. Chad draws and recasts Sensei's Divining Top. He casts Dockside Extortionist. It enters, and Chad creates 6 treasures, which enter the battlefield tapped through Blind Obedience. Then Dockside immediately dies to Elesh Norn. Chad gives the turn to Charles. During his upkeep, Charles takes a damage through Roiling Vortex, and Mike creates a Serpent through Coma. He draws and plays a Plains. He casts Sun Titan. It enters, and Charles returns Recruiter of the Guard from the graveyard to the battlefield. Recruiter enters, triggers, and dies immediately to Elesh Norn. Charles then fetches up a Solitude into his hand. Charles passes. At the end of Charles' turn, Mike activates Thrasios, scrying 1 and revealing a Seedborn Muse into his hand. During his upkeep, Mike takes a damage through Roiling Vortex and creates a Serpent through Coma. He draws and moves to combat. He attacks Charles with his nerfed Serpents and Favorable Elder. Charles takes it, and in his second main phase, Mike casts Seedborn Muse. The table sighs, and Mike passes the turn. Mike untaps with Adam through Seedborn. During his upkeep, Adam takes a damage through Roiling Vortex, Mike creates a Serpent through Coma, and then Adam wins his Mana Crypt roll. During his draw step, he draws 2 extra through Sylvan Library, putting 2 back on top. He moves to combat and attacks Charles with everything. Charles declares no blocks, and in response, Charles flashes in Solitude, exiling a white card from his hand. Roiling Vortex triggers and deals 5 to Charles. Solitude enters and targets Elesh Norn. In response, Chad activates Roiling Vortex to prevent Adam from gaining life this turn. Elesh Norn is exiled, Solitude is sacrificed, and then Charles takes the damage from the attacks. In his second main phase, Adam casts Cloudstone Curio. In response, Mike activates Thrasios, scrying and revealing a Dovin's Veto into his hand. He casts Dovin's Veto, countering Curio. With nothing else, Adam passes the turn. Mike untaps with Chad through Seedborn. During his upkeep, Chad takes a damage from Roiling Vortex, and Mike creates a Serpent through Coma. Chad draws and activates Sensei's Divining Top, looking at the top 3 and rearranging. He cracks treasures to help recast his commander, Syr Carah. He casts Braid of Fire. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond. Roiling Vortex triggers and deals 5 to Chad. He passes. At the end of Chad's turn, Mike activates Thrasios, scrying and revealing a Gaia's Cradle onto the battlefield tapped. Mike untaps with Charles through Seedborn. During his upkeep, Charles takes a damage through Roiling Vortex, and Mike creates a Serpent through Coma. Still in the upkeep, Mike casts Silence, locking out Charles this turn. Charles draws and plays an Urza's Saga, getting its first counter. Charles moves to combat, and in response, Mike activates Coma, sacrificing a Serpent and tapping down Charles' Sun Titan. Charles then does nothing else and passes. At the end of Charles' turn, Mike taps his cradle for 10 and activates Thrasios, scrying and revealing a City of Brass onto the battlefield tapped. He activates Thrasios, scrying and revealing a Swords to Plowshares into his hand. He activates Thrasios, scrying and revealing a Dockside Extortionist into his hand. He activates Thrasios one last time, scrying and revealing a Deflecting Swat into his hand. Finally, the turn moves to Mike. During his upkeep, Mike takes a damage through Roiling Vortex and creates a Serpent through Coma. He draws and taps his cradle to help cast Dockside Extortionist. It resolves, and Mike creates 11 treasures into play tapped. He activates Thrasios, scrying and revealing an Umezawa's Jitte into his hand. He casts Umezawa's Jitte. He equips Jitte to Thrasios. He casts Winota, Joiner of Forces. The table sighs and accepts their fate. Mike moves to combat and attacks Adam with Coma and 6 Serpents, and attacks Charles with Fabro Elder, Seedborn Muse, and Thrasios. 10 Winota triggers all go onto the stack. Mike looks at the top 6 and puts Halana and Alina, partners, tapped and attacking Charles. He looks at the top 6 and fails to find. He looks at the next 6 and puts Lavinia, Azorius Renegade, tapped and attacking Charles. He looks at the next 6 and puts Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, tapped and attacking Charles. It enters and Lavinia gets +4/+4. He looks at the top 6 and puts Samet, Voice of Dissent, tapped and attacking Charles. He looks at the next 6 and fails to find. He looks at the next 6 and puts Kamal, Heart of Croja, tapped and attacking Charles. He looks at the next 6 and puts Cathar Commando, tapped and attacking Chad. He looks at the next 6 and puts Ranger Captain of Eos, tapped and attacking Chad. It enters, and Mike fetches up a Ragavan Nimble Pilferer into his hand. He then looks at his final 6 and fails to find. Before damage, Adam casts Nature's Claim, targeting his own Mana Crypt in an attempt to stay alive. In response, Mike casts Dispel, countering Nature's Claim. Then they all take it, and Charles and Adam die. In his second main phase, Mike casts Swords to Plowshares, targeting Syr Carah. She exiles, and Chad gains 3 life. Mike activates Thrasios, scrying and revealing a Sarah Ascendant into his hand. Finally, Mike passes the turn. Mike untaps with Chad through Seedborn. During his upkeep, Chad takes a damage from Roiling Vortex, and Mike creates a Serpent through Coma. Still in his upkeep, Chad activates his Sensei's Divining Top. In response, Mike cracks his Ranger Captain, attempting to lock out Chad this turn. In response, Chad pays 1 to activate the top again. In response, Mike activates Coma, sacrificing a Serpent, attempting to tap down Chad's top. In response, Chad pays to activate his top. Top resolves, Chad looks at the top 3, then sees he has no outs, and concedes the game to Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing game with our Mox Pearl patrons tonight. One of the things that we love the most about playing with our patrons is all the wild and wacky brews they bring to the table. It also allows us to bring some crazy stuff to the table as well. Congrats to Mike on his win. After he built up enough resources, Mike completely snowballed out of control. Shout out to Rebel Sun for introducing Mike to this amazing deck. The most valuable card in tonight's game goes to Coma, Cosmos Serpent. In a 4-player game, this card completely spirals out of control. All of the abilities attached to this card make it look like something fit for a casual table, but Mike proved tonight that it could hold its own at a CEDH table. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Tune in next time when we duke it out to see who will be king of the competitive EDH table. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.